one First News at 10 in high definition.
This is one way to scare the public into thinking that the weather and the climate is getting worse when it really isn't.
There are new rules for states seeking money for disaster preparedness, and it all boils down to climate change. Good evening, I'm Debra Daniel. Each night we have your top story and weather together. The Obama administration wants Alabama to get on board with this program. Way 31's Demetria McClinton looks at what it all means. Demetria?
Well, Deborah, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, better known as FEMA, wants governors across the country to address climate change. And while you may or may not agree with it, Governor Bentley has to take action soon.
I barely got down the steps when I heard this horrendous noise. Everything went dark.
When daylight broke, Karen Lehman saw this. Destruction nearly everywhere. Lehman's saving grace, her cellar. That was in 2010. The following year, funding became available for storm shelters and safe rooms after the April 27th tornado.
People in Madison County did take advantage of that.
More than 5,000 residents applied for the Federal Emergency Management Agency's hazard mitigation funding to build storm shelters, yet only 100 residents were selected.
They're available after presidentially declared disasters.
But that may not be the case anymore for Alabama and many other Republican-governed states. FEMA's new rules for giving grants to build shelters says states must include consideration of changing environments or climate conditions.
This is not much more than a political stunt to try to exaggerate a threat that is really not there.
FEMA states climate change will make weather events more frequent and more severe.
We measure those events. We know what's going on and what has gone on. These events are not increasing in severity or intensity.
So now it's a waiting game to see if Governor Robert Bentley will sign off on the new rules for addressing climate change. And the policy is currently in effect. It does not apply to federal money for relief after natural disasters. It only applies to disaster preparedness. Deborah?
Thank you, Demetria. Each night we have your top story and weather together, so let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Chris Smith. Chris?
Well, Deborah, we had a beautiful day today, and I think we're going to hit the trifecta this week, looking at 70s throughout the next couple of days. Huntsville, 73 degrees on Tuesday. Wednesday, 76, mostly sunny skies both of those days. Scottsboro, 72 degrees for tomorrow, 75 on Wednesday. And we are lining up a couple of really nice days here in the valley. Great days to just go out and enjoy this gorgeous weather. Muscle Shoals, Tuesday, 74, a little bit warmer. Wednesday at 77. And for Decatur, Tuesday, mostly sunny, 73. Topping off on Wednesday at 76. Deborah?
Thank you, Chris. New at 10, Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice Roy Moore traveled to Austin, Texas today to protest same-sex marriage. This after a federal court ruled Alabama's ban on same-sex marriage unconstitutional. Moore headlined the Defense of Texas Marriage Amendment rally, urging Texans to stand their ground.
Nothing in the Constitution of the United States, nothing in the laws or precedents of the federal courts give federal courts any authority over domestic policy of family and marriage in the state of Texas or the state of Alabama or anywhere else.
Conservative Republicans of Texas and more than 100 state elected officials hosted this event. Texas voters passed a constitutional amendment banning same-sex marriage in 2005. More recently instructed Alabama probate judges to refuse issuing same-sex marriage licenses. The U.S. Supreme Court is expected to make a final ruling this summer. Police arrested a former four-star recruit and University of Alabama football player. Florence police say they stopped Brent Calloway Friday night for running a traffic light, and that's when police say they found spice and marijuana. Calloway was charged and later released on bond. The Alabama football team released the former Russellville High School star in 2013 after he admitted to fraudulent use of a credit card stemming from two separate robberies. A former Jackson County school resource officer is charged in a 2003 rape. Deputies arrested 49-year-old Lee Perry after he was indicted on 9 charges, including statutory rape and second-degree sodomy. Jackson County Sheriff Chuck Phillips says Perry was indicted after the victim, who was 13 at the time, decided she wanted to reopen the case. At the time of the first investigation in 2003, Perry was a school resource officer at Skyline High School. Perry is out of jail on $65,000 bond. Police are suspending their investigation into an alleged rape at the University of Virginia. A student known as Jackie claims she was gang raped at a fraternity house party in 2012. Her story was printed in Rolling Stone magazine, but police have not been able to confirm her story, and she declined to speak to investigators. They hope new information comes forward. To continuing coverage, a state representative wants UAB President Ray Watts to resign. Today, Representative Jack Williams released new documents he says he obtained from an anonymous third party. Williams says those documents show Watts made the decision to cut football before the season even started in September, and that Watts spent months misleading and lying to the community.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is deceit and treachery at its worst, and action must be taken. Today, I am calling on UAB President Ray Watts to resign from his office immediately.
Williams is also calling on University of Alabama Chancellor Robert Witt to clarify whether he had any role in this alleged scheme. Watts issued a response tonight saying, in part, this is categorically untrue. We conducted a specific review of the football program and the budget based on known expenses. I made the final decision in November, and I felt it was appropriate to wait until after the regular season to tell the team and the UAB family. From our Decatur newsroom, the Athens City Council approved a major transportation plan tonight. It hopes to address traffic lights on Highway 72. City Planner Mac Martin says the lights operate on an independent loop, but the Alabama Department of Transportation has not updated the timing on those loops in 13 years.
The existing conditions do not mimic how the circumstances those signals were originally timed under. So yes, as time goes on, that is something that needs to be continually monitored to make sure that we're safely and efficiently allowing our traffic to flow.
Other projects in the plan include expanding specific roads and creating designated bike lanes. We have our finger on the pulse of the Rocket City and everything that makes our area tick. Here's a roundup of your local beats.
I'm Josh Barrett with SpaceAlabama.com. Have you ever helped name a rocket before? Well, here's your chance. The nation's largest rocket maker is calling on the American public to help name their next rocket. United Launch Alliance, a joint venture between Lockheed Martin and Boeing, needs a name for their next generation launch system. They picked 3 options from 400 different suggestions submitted by their 3,400 employees across the nation. About 1,000 of those employees are right here in North Alabama building the Atlas and Delta families of rockets at their Decatur manufacturing plant. The 3 options for the new rocket's name are Freedom, Eagle, and Galaxy 1. The polls are open for 2 weeks, and the winner will be announced at the 2015 National Space Symposium. ULA has been tight-lipped with any information on the new rocket, and they haven't announced where it's going to be built yet, but you can still find out how to vote in the web story on SpaceAlabama.com and tweet me what you voted at JoshWay31, what you voted for using the hashtag RocketVote.
I'm Holly Thrasher with RedstoneAlabama.com, and listen up, there will be some very loud booms coming from Redstone Arsenal this week and next. A noise alert was issued Sunday night by Arsenal officials who say that the elevated noise will be due to routine operations. They say they take every precaution possible to reduce the amount of noise generated, but again, they do expect these booms to be a bit louder than normal. And of course, for more information and a link to where you can report a noise concern, you can check out our website. That's redstonealabama.com.
I'm Travis Leader with TechAlabama.com. Looking for work? Several high-tech employers will take your resume tomorrow. Teledyne Brown, Jacobs, and Intergraph are just some of the several area companies who are attending the Huntsville Engineering, Technology, and Security Clearance Career Expo Tuesday. The event goes from 10 to 3, and it will be held at the Westin at Bridge Street. Employers would like to hear from those in the fields of engineering, software development, and programming, among others. All jobs require U.S. citizenship, a college degree, and a minimum 2 years of experience. Attendance is encouraged for the best results. For TechAlabama.com, I'm Travis Leader.
Shortage of firefighters is hitting a Marshall County department very hard. There are 7 volunteers at the Waterfront Volunteer Fire Department, but it wants to bring in 4 more. Assistant Chief Michelle Edwards says this shortage is common for smaller volunteer departments.
So it's very important, and if there are not enough people to do this, then not only are you going to have a delayed response time, but those minutes could make a big difference.
The Waterfront Department responds to an average 70 emergency calls every single year. A couple excited to hear they won a new car. It led to a lot of phone conversations with someone they grew to trust, but it was all a scam in the investigators. Chris?
Yeah, sure, it was nice. We saw highs in the 70s today, but could we see temperatures actually going to the freezing mark again? I'll let you know coming up in 60 seconds.
This week, local boys and girls clubs are teaching kids about giving back to their community. They're hosting a food drive to benefit the local food bank as part of their All About Our Community campaign. And it's not just kids and their parents who can donate. You can drop off non-perishable items at all 10 North Alabama locations.
I'm learning that some kids don't have this, and we're benefiting food for them, so when tornadoes or storm comes, we can have food for them to eat.
It's really important because when storms and things happen, some people, they just don't have the money or the needs that they have to buy stuff.
Organizers say this will help the Food Bank of North Alabama before severe weather season. The food drive ends Friday, and for where you can donate, head to our website, waytv.com. Here with Chief Meteorologist Chris Smith. We don't like to talk about severe weather season, but it's a fact. I'll tell you what, though, today was gorgeous.
It was gorgeous, and just even with severe weather in general, it has been incredibly low all around the country. Not that that's a bad thing at all, because I love it when that happens.
Yeah.
And so far it looks like we're not going to be looking at any severe weather at all for about the next week and a half. So we're good up until that point. And we were gorgeous today, as Deborah already mentioned. Got into the 70s, 75 for Huntsville, 72 for Muscle Shoals. A real beautiful day here in the valley. I really, on Friday night and Saturday night, to see if we can get to freezing. It's growing season now. We're finally starting to get into that time of the year. But it's really going to be a gamble of, do you want to try to plant now or wait until next week and risk that freeze, or at least the frost potential?
Can you cover the plants?
You will be able to cover the plants in some cases, but since everything is still new, that may make it a little bit tougher.
All right, Chris, we'll see what happens. Thank you very much. Well, with this weather here, Huntsville Utility says it's time to service your air conditioning unit. Make sure you get a professional to tune up your unit to ensure it's working properly, and change out those air filters monthly. You can also save money by adjusting your thermostat. Just 2 degrees can make your bill jump 5%. Using ceiling fans means you will use less energy, and keep your blinds and curtains shut. Direct sunlight will, of course, heat up your home. Well, they were told they won a car, and that's where the trouble began. How they were trapped in one of the biggest scams around in The Investigators. Next. It's becoming one of the most popular scams in the country. 2 victims have some important advice in The Investigators.
We could see there was something shady going on, and we weren't quite sure what it was.
Betty and August Thalman cannot believe they got caught up in a lottery sweepstakes scam. They were told they won a car. All they needed to do was pay the taxes and fees to get it.
He wanted you to give certain kind of money on a card.
They bought so-called green dot cards, and when the man called, he asked for the number on the back of the card. With that number, the con artist could access the money deposited on the card.
The offer was made so well in the beginning, you know, that it was easy to go along with it. And we just really thought that we had something.
The Thalmans were then asked to send cash. The fraudster didn't account for an astute postmaster.
When somebody says, this is the way the man wants me to mail it, something's not right.
Hickey felt the envelope and knew cash was inside. She asked August to come to her office and gave him the bad news.
I know this is a scam. Please let me call our postal inspectors and let me come up and talk to you and your wife.
In all, they lost $700, but it could have been much worse if someone hadn't intervened.
This couple is from a generation who trusted people.
The Thalmans say they did trust the voice on the phone, but they were also intimidated.
They'll go to Google Earth and look up to see what their house looks like. So they will tell the victims, I can see your house, I know where you live. They'll actually describe the house. You live in a white brick house. And at that time, the victim will be very afraid, thinking that they could actually be in the neighborhood when in fact they're in another country.
Just awful. Remember, no legitimate lottery will ever ask for money up front. Ryan joins us now, and with all this basketball going on, we forget about football.
And it's easy to forget about the Alabama Hammers. They're going to hunker down beginning this Friday. We're going to talk to you about what's coming up next with the Alabama Hammers season opener. That's next. Plus, several local names in the prep ranks were honored at tonight's AHSAA Hall of Fame. Find out who when First Sports returns. Play of the day. You got to embrace your
That was
inner
cute.
eagle.
There you go. He was doing it.
Absolutely.
Chris is next. Well, it is spring break for many, but some students spent the afternoon learning. Campers with Bird on the Mountain are going back in time to learn about the 1800s and how people traveled. They raced boats on the mini Alabama River to imitate boat travel, and they also spent the morning learning about the Underground Railroad.
Very fun because you get to learn a lot of interesting stuff. We've been learning about trains and how the steam comes out.
And the camp lasts all week, and Bird on the Mountain will host similar programs this summer.
Those boats have quite a design to them.
Pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, they do look pretty cool. And if you want to, race maybe some of the bigger boats out on the lakes or on the Tennessee River, you got great weather for it. Tuesday 73, Wednesday 76, and then by the time we get into the weekend, we do have big changes coming our way. We'll see about a 20-degree drop, even the potential for maybe even a freeze in some places Saturday and Sunday morning. So we're warm for now. Go out and enjoy it because by the time we get to the weekend, temperatures will be a lot colder.
And we want to say congratulations to our own Ryan Marshall, who won not one, but 2 Alabama Broadcasters Association awards this weekend.
Thank you.
Way to go. Best sports anchor.
Best sports anchor.
Best
and
sports
best
reporter.
Sports reporter.
He's the man. Thanks for joining us. Jimmy Kimmel is next. Have a good night. Yeah, that was awesome.